Hey everybody, welcome back to the No Ball Dynasty podcast. I'm here by myself today, starting a new series. I'm going to do team previews and really break down the teams, their salary cap, what the next year looks like for them, future projection, obviously dynasty value and things like that. Today was the draft lottery, and funnily enough, I decided to do the Washington Wizards as my first team. Not because they won the draft lottery, which I assume everybody knows now, but because their division was the easiest for me to do. They're also my local team. I am a Rockets fan, but I live near the Wizards now. So watch a lot of their games, go to a lot of their games, so I thought it'd be fun to go over them. Plus they have a lot of interesting dynasty impact with a lot of young players, a lot of interesting movement happening on that team. So I'm going to go over kind of the players, what I expect the team to do, and I'm going to do that for every team in the NBA over the offseason. That's my plan. I think it'll be good to level set and get a rough idea of where I am on everything and then work my way from there once the season starts for next year. One thing I do want to say, part 2 of our draft will be coming out soon. We did part 1, the top 15. I'm just waiting to get everybody on the same schedule. It can be tough when you're trying to get 3 people together. Which is why I'm kind of doing this series on my own. Also, I'll be posting a new ranking here in the next couple weeks. I'm trying to do a top 450 for Dynasty for the deeper leagues. We'll see if I get to that. It'll be posted on my Substack at some point. But yeah, that's my little shout outs there. So let's get started. The Washington Wizards. Bad year, record-wise. Good year, plan-wise. And they obviously got the ultimate prize that they were trying to get, which was the first pick in the draft. And that is interesting for them. I think they are a team that was in need of some star power. They obviously brought in Trae Young and Anthony Davis, who are interesting. And we'll kind of talk about that in a minute. But I think the first pick for them could go many different directions. I think they have a lot of options. I think the betting favorite right now is AJ Dybonsta. Not where I would go personally, but I see why a team would go that direction. It's going to be a big part of their offseason, right? Where do they go and how that affects the rest of their roster. I'm only going to talk about the top 4 because I think the top 4 are set in stone. We have Dybonsta, Peterson, Boozer, and Caleb Wilson. And I'm going to talk about real quickly what I think the impact of those players will be. I think Boozer is by far the most impactful dynasty player, especially initially, has the highest floor of the entire group. He'll be a stat stuffer for fantasy. I don't see them going that direction if Anthony Davis wants to stay. If Anthony Davis doesn't want to stay, I could see them taking Boozer. Right now, it would make Boozer not as impactful right away unless he can play with Davis and Sarr at different times in like a 3-man front court, or he could play the 3, which is a question mark. So I think he probably won't get picked, but if he does, I think it makes him slightly worse this year, but especially if Davis is still there, but still my number 1 dynasty prospect. And then Dybonsta, which again is the betting favorite. I think he is an interesting fit. He's better than any wing they have right now. Keontae George, Will Riley, Bilal Coulibaly, who are all interesting, and we'll talk about all of them. But AJ is a force offensively and has a ton of upside. Obviously, I've talked about some of his defensive downsides previously, but I expect that to be better, and it will need to be if he's going to play with Trae Young. They cannot have his defense with Trae Young. It would be really, really rough to watch on the perimeter. But I expect that to be better as he has less of an offensive load. That affects George, Riley, and Bilal negatively. He'll obviously take away from them. He'll take away with some of their on-ball opportunities, especially for George, who had quite a bit this year. So if they take Dybonsta, it will drag down the value of some of those other players. Will Riley will really get drugged down. Not that I'm super high on Will Riley to begin with, but he'll really be brought down value-wise. Bilal, I think, will still be okay because he provides like some defensive value. And George, obviously, some floor spacing and some creation, but Dybonsta will take a lot of those wing minutes away. He'll play with those guys occasionally, but it just drags them down a little bit. Peterson, and I think is their best fit. I really think he's by far the most interesting. I think he'd be a great fit with Trae Young in the backcourt. He'll provide defensive cover on the perimeter, offensive shot making, which they sorely lack. What does he do to the team? He hurts Trae Johnson quite a bit, right? He's a better shot maker than Trae Johnson, so they would be a little redundant, and he's a much better defender than Trae Johnson is. So I think that would hurt them quite a bit. He would, his ceiling would become almost six-man at that point, or if Trae Young leaves and they can kind of run a Peterson, Trae Johnson backcourt. That's a possibility in the future, but his current value will drop quite a bit. Bub Carrington, who I think is kind of on the way out anyways, really takes a hit and will probably be out of the rotation pretty significantly if it's Peterson. And then Caleb Wilson, who I think is the least likely to be, but I don't put it past them to do that. They also could trade down hypothetically. With Anthony Davis there, obviously Caleb Wilson is a 4. He's too small to be a 5, but he's got a great body type for a 4. He's a little bigger. While Anthony Davis is there, his ceiling will be not amazing. When Davis leaves, which it seems like he may want to, Wilson could be quite a Trae Young partner, and I could see a lot of value for him there. And I actually like the fit with Sarr and Wilson. I think the athleticism and the creation and passing on that team would be really interesting with Wilson. Though I don't think they'll take him, I think it's going to be one of the other 3 more than likely. So that's just my very, very basic, right after the lottery happened today, kind of opinions on it. But yeah, happy for the Wizards finally getting the pick they want. I think they can't really go wrong. They just kind of got to figure out what they want to do and where they want to improve their team. Just be very conscious of it. If you have guys on the wing like George or Will Riley, DeBonsis is a very decent chance he goes there and heavily affects them. Their minutes and creation opportunity will go down. George may have hang around. Bilal's a guy that I'm not sure what would happen with him. They'll probably continue to play him, but there's a lot of downside risk with all those guys. So just be very aware. If you have Trae Johnson, same thing for Peterson or Bub Carrington, drops their value a little bit. So if you want to sell high and try to get off of them now, or take the risk and wait it out, you can do that. But some of those I would sell high on, especially a guy like Will Riley. I would definitely be looking to sell high on. But I'll go into that. That's just my very basic first overall pick opinion. Leave comments if you think that something I'm saying doesn't make a lot of sense, or you like a player differently there. I'd love to hear kind of where people think the Wizards should go, because I do think they can legitimately go any direction there. So they're one of the more unique first overall picks. All right, let's talk about Trae Young and Anthony Davis real quick, and then I'm going to get into their salary cap. So Trae Young has a player option for next year just under $49 million. Anthony Davis has 2 more years on his contract, 1 guaranteed, 1 player option at 58 and almost $63 million the next year. So let's do Anthony Davis first. Anthony Davis has talked about wanting to leave the Wizards. Well, he has not said that, but there's rumors that he wants to leave the Wizards. I don't know if that affects his value too much. I actually think he'd be better fantasy-wise on the Wizards, and I think that he has an opportunity to be a contributor on a team that is looking to probably push for the playoffs in the next year or 2 and help develop Sarr and guys like that. But apparently he's not interested in that, which I understand. He's a little older. But yeah, his dynasty value I don't think is affected a ton by that. He obviously is a huge injury risk. He is a problem because you don't know where he's going to go trade-wise. If he stays on the Wizards, I like his fit with Trae Young. I think it's interesting. They don't really have a guy that plays exactly like that, except for Sarr, and I think they would make a really interesting front court together. I think he will take away from Sarr a little bit if he stays on the team, but I don't think that's a huge deal. As far as his ranking, so on court consensus, he is ranked 79. Well, actually, I'm sorry. That's in points. In categories, he's ranked 75, not much of a change. I think that's probably a little low. I'd have him slightly higher than that. Probably closer to like 60, somewhere in that range for me. I haven't done my rankings yet, but I'd probably have him there. But again, look out. What does he keep saying? If there's smoke, there's probably fire, so he could be out of there soon. I would like to see the Young-Davis combo, because I think it'd be interesting, but it looks like we may not get to see that anytime soon. And then Trae Young, he, I think, is going to have the largest effect on the rest of the team. He's obviously a ball-dominant guard. A lot of the uptick we saw in other players this year for the Wizards, from Sarr, George, Riley, those types of guys, was because of some more creation opportunities. Young is going to take a lot of those away. He's going to reduce opportunities on the ball for other players. But there's an argument that as play finishers, they will become just as valuable fantasy-wise because they'll be able to finish plays that he creates for guys like Sarr and George getting open looks. So should be interesting. I think that it's probably a wash in the grand scheme of things. I think the reduction in creation for other players will be an increase in better looks, so it should level out. And we may see higher efficiency, which for 9-cat may be valuable for guys like Sarr and George. But as far as Trae Young goes, we'll see if he gets an extension. I think that's a big question. If they give him that extension, then you can kind of bake in a lot of this stuff. But we'll have to see if they do that because he has a player option this year. If he backs out to sign a larger contract, should be really interesting, especially what number they sign him at. If they put him at the max, then they obviously really believe in him. Right now, on court consensus, he's ranked 32nd, the 10th point guard. That feels about right. I think that could be a little low. I could see him moving, into the top 25 pretty easily, but I think he'll be an interesting fit in Washington. And I think the team will be fast. They'll create a lot of transition opportunities. He will get guys open looks. I expect his assist numbers to be pretty solid. You kind of know what you're going to get with him. 3-pointers, scoring the ball, passing the ball. I don't expect that to change. I just expect the shot profile of some of the other players on the team to change, and that's something I would be hyper aware of. I would be buying Trae Young if you could get him cheaply. I actually like him quite a bit. I've always been a little bit of a Trae Young truther, I guess, and I think especially if Anthony Davis is there, they'll have a defense around him that could be really interesting. We'll see who they take with the first pick, but they could have a defensive shell that helps him out and covers for his issues. But yeah, I like Trae Young. I see top 25 value, at least for the next year or two. He's 27 right now, 28 next year. Like him. I like him a lot more as a future Wizard than Davis, obviously. And I think he solves a lot of the creation problems that the Wizards have offensively because they were bad, both offensively and defensively. But as they get older, their offense and defense will hopefully improve with the first pick this year. And I think they could create a really interesting shell around Young. They're wild cards. Both Davis and Young are wild cards. Pay attention to them. See if the opportunities that Young is creating for other people helps cover for the loss of creation that the other guys are going to lose. So that's something I would be looking out for. My bet is it's a wash, but I would just be hyper aware of how much on the ball is he going to have, and does that hurt a guy like George or Sarr, and obviously some of the Bub Carringtons and those types of guys are probably out of even reduced more than they already have been. Okay, so let's talk about Bilal Coulibaly. So Bilal Coulibaly is going into his last year of his deal. He has a team option next year for $9.2 million. Will be interesting to see if they sign him to an extension. He's obviously extension eligible. If they don't sign him, then he'll become a restricted free agent after next year because you have to sign the year before your contract ends. He had a weird year. He also is now facing a little bit of a roster crunch where people who play his position and similar play style, not necessarily similar play style, but similar position, are going to get in the way of his playing time, to include Will Riley and Keyshawn George. I think we should be paying attention to the contract because I think it will kind of show the feelings they have about George and Riley. Because if they give him big money, then obviously that's a vote of confidence in the other direction towards Coulibaly. If they give him less or don't give him anything, then I think we can feel more confident about George and Will Riley. To some extent, obviously, if they take Dybantsa, that's a whole nother thing. If they take Dybantsa, I could very easily see them not re-signing Coulibaly for big money unless he's going to take a discount. I do like his fit because of his defense on the perimeter with guys like Trae Young. And I do think he'll get better looks in transition with Trae Young, which should help him out a little bit. Generic thoughts is he needs to be a better shooter. I don't think that's like a crazy opinion. He's at 138 on court consensus right now for category ranking. That sounds about right. I would be happy to get him for, if you could get him for like AJ Mitchell, I'd be super happy. Something like that, right? I think it'd be tough after his last playoff game, but a guy like that who's in the same territory, that's there's some guys in that range I'd rather have, but he's probably a little lower than that, but it's not terrible. Probably in like the 150, 160 range. Again, I haven't updated my rankings, but don't hate that for him. And Again, a guy that we got to look at this extension. If the extension comes, it'll tell us a lot. If it doesn't come, it'll also tell us a lot. So be aware of that. If he doesn't get an extension, I think he is probably on his way out to a different team, which means his value may go up if he goes to a team where he can play, or floor may be falling out beneath him pretty quickly. As far as his season goes, he had 15.7 points per game or per 75, 5.8 rebounds per 75, 0.2 assists, or not assists, but points assisted. Blocks were great per 75. Forced turnovers were great. Deflections were great. The defense is good. If you have a team that relies on defense, defensive metrics for 9-cat, he's going to be a good fit. Rebounds are solid for his position. It's just everything else. True shooting was bad, 52%, or almost 53, 52.8. Rim assists weren't great. He does get to the rim, and he does get decent free throw attempts per his position, but the shooting is just not there. 32% from three, long mid-range 34%, short mid-range 27%. Rim is 65, which is okay. Free throw percentage 74, which is just okay. Not even okay. It's not amazing. You would hope to see those improve. If those improve, obviously he is a legitimate potential top 100 guy. He's still young, he's 21, but right now it doesn't look like it's going to improve. If you have a team that's built on defense, defensive statistics, rebounding, I think he's a good fit for that. If you're looking for offense from him, you may be in trouble with how this team is starting to look. I think he's a buy if you have that defensive team, and he's probably a sell if you don't. All right. Next guy, we'll go to Keyshawn George. He only played 48 games last year. We saw quite a big jump. It was an impressive season. He is... Let's see where he's ranked real quick. He is ranked 69. On court consensus for categories, I think that's going to be high. I think he's a sell high because of all the stuff we talked about previously with DeBonsta, the crowdedness of that position. I think he's probably closer to like 100. If you can get a top 75 guy for him, I'd probably try to do that. He has 2 more years left on his rookie deal, so he's going to be there for a little bit unless they make a consolidation trade. Things I like that I saw this year, shooting efficiency obviously jumped up quite a bit. The creation was there. The passing made a pretty big leap. We saw the points assisted at 13 per 75, which was in the 93rd percentile. Great rim assist, 18.1 points per 75, 6.3 rebounds per 75, all pretty much in the 80th percentile or higher for him. Blocks were the 93rd percentile, deflections in the 75th. A lot of good stuff there. I think he's definitely going to be playing, even with DeBonsta, especially if he can play the 2 consistently. With Trae Young, I think that's possible because they won't need a ton of extra ball handling with DeBonsta, who can provide that a little bit as well. So I do like him. I just think there's some concerns because 39% of his plays last year were creation, where he's ISOing, he's the pick and roll ball handler, he's posting up. That's going to drop off because of Trae. Spacing will probably stay about the same. Transition may go up. Finishing needs to get better, right? If Trae Young's going to put him in spots where he can get to the basket, we want to see him do that. He didn't do a ton of that. He was okay when he got to the rim. He just doesn't get to the rim as much as I would like. He's in the 50th percentile in field goal attempts at the rim. Mid-range, loves a long mid-range, loves a short mid-range. He gets those. He needs to probably shoot some more threes as well. But threes and getting to the rim will be his big step up, and how he handles not being able to create as much because Trae Young will have the ball. Yeah, defensive value is solid, like I said, and like I just said, rim pressure concerns. He's going to probably need to do that a little bit more with Trae Young, but his shooting will help with DeBonsta, who I think is going to struggle to shoot right away from 3. So George will probably be a necessary element to their offense to some extent. It's just, will the creation drop-off affect his statistics significantly? That's kind of the thing to look out for. He'll have a role, but I think it will be reduced a little bit, at least initially. So I would be looking to sell if you can get a top 75, but I think he's a solid top 100 asset right now. All right, Will Riley. I think this is just a huge window play. If you have like a 4 or 5 year window, this is a guy I would grab if you can get him cheaply. Unfortunately, I don't think you can get him cheaply. I'm skeptical of a lot of what happened at the end of the season. It looked like just a hot streak to me. I didn't see a lot of things that I loved. The efficiency throughout the year wasn't great, obviously. It was really just that stuff at the end. Right now, court consensus, he's ranked 245. I think that's about right. I wouldn't have him probably much higher than that, though I think a lot of people do. When I redo it, I'll probably have him a little bit higher, but not crazy high. I think it's going to be tough if Bilal is still there and George is still there, and if Dybantsa is there. I think he's going to really struggle to get the playing time to be fantasy relevant. So if you're a deep rebuild, he's a guy I would grab. If you're not a deep rebuild, I would try to move him for something that's actually going to play. He obviously was a rookie this year, so not huge expectations. The efficiency will probably go up just because it usually does with after rookie years, but he doesn't provide a lot of ancillary statistics. Like rebounding, defensive statistics are not amazing. If he had some of that, I would say his floor is a lot higher, but right now he just doesn't do a lot of those things. It's really the shooting and scoring, and if he's not getting the usage and the playing time, I worry about that. He is a spacing guy. If he plays with Trae Young, he'll get open looks. I just don't think he's going to play that much, especially if Dybantsa is there. His value really drops if Dybantsa is there. So, like I said, deep rebuild, grab him. Not a deep rebuild, I'd probably try to move him to someone who is doing a deep rebuild. And let's do Trae Johnson. I talked a little bit about Trae Johnson. He had a interesting rookie year. I think people thought he was going to be the elite shot maker. We saw flashes of it mid-range and from three. He likes to shoot from there, so we know we're going to get shots up if he plays. And I think he right now is looking like he's going to be necessary with Dybantsa, similar to George, to be able to spread the floor some. But I do think the amount of shots may go down a little bit with Trae Young, and the first pick, especially if the first pick is Peterson, then he really drops off. I think in categories he's not great to begin with because he doesn't provide a lot of ancillary statistics. Right now, he's ranked 132 on court consensus. I guess 132 is okay. He's probably like top 150. He needs to be hyper efficient and develop some playmaking to really see the fantasy potential get to where I think he will hold that value. He's a tough shot maker. He makes really difficult shots. You hope with Trae Young he gets better looks so the efficiency goes up. And whoever the first pick is, potentially getting him more open looks. With a more egalitarian offense, he won't have to take so many tough shots. But the shot profile is mostly long, mid-range shots and threes. He doesn't get to the basket really at all, which hurts his efficiency, obviously. Hurts his free throws. Even though he's a good free throw percentage shooter, doesn't get to the line a lot. As he bulks up, I'm hoping that will improve. Him being able to get to the free throw line a little bit because he can take the contact, because right now he's very skinny. But right now, there's a lot of potential there, but there's also a lot of things in his way, and I don't love it. He was definitely on the lower end of a lot of things, except for points per 75. He was in the 77th percentile for that. Basically everything else, he's below average. He basically doesn't get to the rim, like I said. His three-point shooting was fine. 5.8%. Like to see that tick up a little bit. You're hoping with the better shots it goes up. And his creation was 31% of his plays. That will probably drop down a little bit, same as everybody else. And his spacing and transition will probably go up a little bit, which is spacing is the majority of what he does, as I talked about before. But his spacing currently is not great efficiency-wise. His transition is not great efficiency-wise. His creation is okay. Just a lot of efficiency issues. And he's going to need to be hyper-efficient to be a worthwhile 9-category player. Points, I like him a lot better. If you're in a points league, I think he's probably top 100 player because of the potential. Categories, I think we have to temper expectations a lot and just hope that the assists develop, which we've seen flashes, but nothing crazy, and the efficiency to really jump and the three-point shots to go up even more. Even though the rate was pretty good already, we want to get that to a very high percent so he becomes kind of a elite three-point shot maker with some small ancillary things. We just really need that for his 9-cat rankings. But yeah, I think he's ranked about right in categories in the 130 to 150 range and is a little higher in points, obviously, for me. All right, let's talk about Alex Sarr quickly. Alex Sarr had a big breakout year. I think everybody is aware of that. Quickly, his per 75, 21.3 points. His assisted points were 9 points per 75, 9.7 rebounds per 75. Which is not great for his position, but the assisted points and the points are good. Turnovers were solid. Blocks, 2.6 per 75. That's in the 90th percentile. True shooting was bad. He was in the bottom 10. And his turnovers, like I said, solid. 3-point attempts, he got up a decent amount, shot 33.3%. Range was not good efficiency-wise. Rim was just okay for his size, but you hope as he bulks up that gets better. And then kind of how he got there, most of it was play finishing. He did have a little bit of creation, 17%, a little bit of spacing, 21%. Most of his, 53% of his play tops was finishing. That's a perfect match for Trae Young, so it feels like the efficiency will go up a little bit. And you hope the free throw rate goes up a little bit as well. He needs to kind of finish over people instead of backing away from them, which you see a lot. He doesn't use his body much because he's not a big guy yet, at least width-wise. He's tall, but not super strong. The playmaking was nice, but again, if he's not getting the ball as much in creation opportunities, that may drop off a little bit. But I do think he's a good connected passer, so we will probably still see a decent amount for his position. So I still like that. The blocks will still be there more than likely. I like that for him. Improvements to watch out for, like I said, free throw rate, three-point shooting. He's got a good floor with the blocks and points. And if Anthony Davis leaves, then you feel really good about it because he'll be the primary guy there. With Davis, I think it should be an interesting front court. They kind of both do a lot of the same stuff. But I would like to see it. I think it would be an interesting experiment. And I think he'll have a slight dip in statistics, but his long-term value is great. I feel really good about him. And Trae Young, I think, will accent a lot of the things that he's already pretty good at. Right now, in court consensus, he's ranked 40th for categories. That's around Austin Reeves, Jalen Duren, Dylan Harper, Bam Adebayo right in there. That sounds about right. He's 21. I like him quite a bit, and I think Washington is on a path where they need him as a second or third best player on their team for a future run. I like top 50 for him. He's got 2 more years left on his deal, so no worries there. Yeah, I think Alex I think it's a legitimate breakout. I think we'll see a future top 50 player consistently. I think he's got top 25 upside. If everything works out, if the shooting gets there and the defense stays the same. A guy I really like, I traded for this year, and am looking forward to what he does. He was my favorite player in that class, even though it was a weak class. I think he's starting to show what people hoped he had. And the last thing I'll say, he has a lot of development opportunity because he's so skilled in so many different things. He could develop other skills with a new offense, with new players, and show different things. So there should be some categories that he may affect that he's not currently affecting, just with the way Washington is reshaping a little bit. So just be on the lookout for kind of how he changes his game. But I do think he's so versatile that he can adapt okay and still be a significant contributor. All right, so last thing I want to say quickly, Cam Whitmore and Bub Carrington. So I'm a Rockets fan. I've said this before. Cam Whitmore, all he really does is score. I think he's on the way out. He is behind probably Riley, George, probably behind Jaden Hardy on this team, Kubali, Trae Johnson, right? He's playing the 2 or the 3. I guess he could play the 4 in a really small lineup. Yeah, I think he's on the way out. If you can get anything for him, I would probably get it. As long as he's in Washington, his value is very, very low. He's still young. He's 21.8 years old currently. But yeah, don't love it. I like his positional versatility, but he's just a little bit of a one-track mind. He rebounds a little bit. He cannot pass the ball, doesn't see the floor well. The feel is really low. It was the same with the Rockets. You hope it improves, but he currently don't like him. Even at 293, like he's barely on rosters, in my opinion. Bub Carrington, he's 166. Hate that for him. I think he should be in the 2. I would be selling Bub Carrington. I think he's also a guy who's going to be looking on the outside in. I'd be trying to sell him pretty quickly, probably. He was really bad analytically. I think this is probably going to be a front office that relies on some analytics, and Carrington really shoots in places that analytics doesn't love, and he's not efficient enough to be doing that. He's just kind of bad at most things. It doesn't provide a lot of ancillary stats. Best case scenario, he's a 6 man, but I think Trae Johnson's going to take a little bit of that role, and Trae Young is going to be on the floor so much that Bub Carrington is pretty much on the outside looking in. So unless he gets traded, I would be selling Bub Carrington, even just to get a top 200 player. If you can get like top 150, obviously that's great. 150 to 200 is probably where he is. I would immediately be trying to get off of him. I think he's a player that will have a precipitous drop. And he's a player I liked in the draft, but I just think with the current roster construction, he's going to struggle to get the opportunities to really contribute at the fantasy relevant level. So yeah, that's it for Washington. There's obviously other things that are going on the team, but I wanted to hit the highlights that I think people are interested with for Dynasty. I hope that people will put questions in the chat. If there are any specifically about the Wizards, I'll try to answer them as best as I can. We're going to be doing the rest of their division over the next couple weeks, hopefully the next 2 weeks or so. And yeah, should be interesting to see who they take. I think that changes a lot of what we're talking about, but tried to give a little bit of an opinion of all of that.